James, 1-1 draw today with Tiverton.
Yep.
What were your thoughts on today's performance?
I think it was a battling display from us. I think you can see the effort, the desire that the boys put in, which is really encouraging. You know, games, especially now getting to the business end of the season and obviously the position we were in, there's going to be that little bit of nervousness in our performance. Decision making at times wasn't great, but we can't fault the boys for attitude and desire. I thought they were excellent. They've run themselves into the ground again, and that's everyone. You know, the squad as a whole. I thought they were excellent in terms of that. And I think if you really dissect the game, if you look at chances that we've created, obviously Olaf's gone through. I think Alfie's gone through, took his goal really well. But even first half, you know, there was 3 or 4 really good chances. Possibly on another day, you know, that game could be put to bed. Don't get me wrong, they came back into the game strong. As we've just talked about, I think the sending off obviously had an impact on that. Whether it was a right or wrong decision, it did have an impact. Mainly because we didn't then really have an outlet. So it was almost a case of drawing lines and saying, right, you know, not attack against defence, but to that sort of degree. So it didn't really give us an outlet to stretch them, to hurt them, to take pressure off. As I've said to you earlier, I didn't think it was the worst tackle in the game. But whatever the referee see, you know, that's fair enough. We have to accept that. But then even when they scored, you know, that was probably, 5-6 minutes to go. And I still think then the boys have shown tremendous character not to lose that game. So these are things we take the positives out of. And like you said, we're still creating chances. We can see the efforts there. The squad was stretched today. The lads that come in, I thought were excellent. Yemi's come in for his first game. Probably hasn't played for a month. But he's come in and was excellent. I thought a little bit of know-how up there, held the ball up extremely well, bought fouls, his runs were good, so he's going to get better and better with the minutes that he gets. So overall, we keep to the positives, definitely. Definitely.
You touched on the red card tackle from Tom. Tiverton seemed pretty irate about it. The general view was that it perhaps wasn't a red card. What was your take on it?
I think, like I said, we won't get. I won't get drawn into criticising the referee, but I think it was a yellow card. I don't think it was a straight red, personally. We will look at it. Like we said, it pressurised games. You know, at this stage of the season, with 2 teams that are sort of fighting for their lives. I think if Tom had made that tackle first half, it would have probably been a yellow card. Later on in the game, with tensions rising as they are, both teams pushing to try and gain the 3 points. I think the referees possibly reacted more to the situation than the tackle, but that's by the by. You know, we won't complain about that. We have to get on with it. Basically, can't be changed now.
Mm-hmm. It seemed like the tolerance for fouls was quite low throughout the game. Lots of little soft ones actually picking up bookings. Do you think that contributed to when a heavier tackle came in?
Possibly. I mean, you'd have to ask the referee that. Possibly that sometimes is the case, isn't it? We've all seen it. We've all been in football long enough, and you see that if they book people for what we would possibly class as a minor misdemeanour, and then if there is an incident or a full-blooded tackle, it tends to be a straight red, doesn't it? So, yeah, but we've got to move on from that. We've got to get on. We've got more important things to worry about now than that, and no more so than the next game. So that's all we can focus on, really. But we take a lot of positives out of that game, definitely.
Mm-hmm. One to consider appealing, perhaps?
We'll look at it first. Yeah, we'll look at it first. Like I said, he's given the decision very quickly. He brandished the red card, so we'll have a look at that. We'll watch it back. It's always not the best time to make a judgment in the heat of the moment. We feel that, you know, the tension as anyone else does. So we'll have a look at it first. But yeah, we'll make a judgment then, I think.
Mm-hmm. Of course, the upshot of that was 5 minutes later, Tiverton equalised. Obviously, quite disappointing at that late stage. I think it was the 88th minute to concede an equaliser.
Yeah, that's disappointing. Obviously, they penned us back. It was very difficult, as I mentioned, to have an outlet when you go down to 10 men. If you look at the sort of passage of play where the goal was created from, it was probably an area of the pitch where Tom's going to be. So you know, that's difficult, but yeah, I'm not going to knock the boys for that.
You mentioned you were pleased with the way they held on, because Tiverton did have a good chance towards the end, didn't they?
They did. They put us under a lot of pressure, and it's very easy for teams to crumble. Like you said, the timing of the goal, 88 minutes. How many times have we seen teams then go on and win games, you know, in the 92nd, 93rd minute, you know, when that's the case, when heads drop. But there was quite a resolute approach, I thought, to us. I thought we defended our box extremely well. You know, like I said, because they put us under pressure. There was constant crosses coming into the box from different angles, and they held firm. And it's a game you could have quite easily lost in those closing stages. So credit to the boys for holding on for that point. Definitely.
Of course, before the late drama, it'd been a really good performance, hasn't it? Obviously, you know, getting the first goal, a quality, you know, cross from George.
Yeah, definitely. We highlighted, because of the way Tiverton were playing, we highlighted that we could hurt them in wide areas and create our overloads, and that was something we were trying to work. It was something we touched on before the game and definitely at half time. To what Glenn mentioned, that we knew we could overload in wide areas because they were quite narrow, they were quite compact, and the first real chance we'd done it second half, we scored from it. So that was encouraging. Definitely. But I thought we could hurt them in those areas throughout the game. But that comes from the work ethic of our forward players wanting to make those runs, and they did that time and time again. So we're very pleased about that. Yeah.
Early in the game, Olaf had a great chance, didn't he? I couldn't believe he missed it.
I think it's one of them. He's actually made too good a connection. You know, the ball. Obviously, it was a looping cross from base. Who's done extremely well, you know, on the byline. But he's almost waiting for it to come down, and then he's made a great contact. I think on another day, if he mishits it or it comes off his shin, it just bounces in, doesn't it? So yeah. But again, arriving in that area, we're not going to knock the boys for missing chances. You know, you want them there in those situations. We want that again next week. You know, if they miss chances, they miss chances. You know, as long as they keep creating them first and foremost, and then the players keep arriving and getting on the end of them. That's the be all and end all, and that's what we'll stick to, because the tide will change. You know, Olaf, Alfie, Yemi, Base, they're good players. They're good players, and like Alfie today getting his goal. You know, sometimes it works with strikers, doesn't it? You get one, and then you see a nice little run up here. Same happened with Olaf. That one goes in, he'll probably go on and score more. So as long as they keep getting in those situations, we'll be happy with that.
Yemi was one of a number of players signed this week, wasn't he? Looked like he gave a good performance, as you touched on, for someone who's not played for him.
Yeah, his game time has been very limited. And obviously, you know, Yemi's an experienced player. You know, he's played for some very good clubs at a very good standard. And I thought he gave us a real calmness up front. You know, when the ball went into him, it stuck. He was able to get his body in the right position to buy fouls when we needed to take pressure off. And if you actually look at even some of the runs that he made where he didn't necessarily receive the ball, his runs were real quality runs. So we'll work with him this week, but we were really pleased with his impact that he's made. He'll be excellent for us, Yemi. I can really see that.
Mm-hmm. At 37, he seems to still have a spring in his step. And
he's a fit lad. He's a fit lad. Looks after himself extremely well. I don't think it was a case of his fitness levels weren't there to last the 90 minutes. It was just a case that he hasn't played games. You know, that match sharpness, match fitness. It's always different to training, isn't it? But no, he'll be really good for us, Yemi. A lot of experience, a lot of know-how. He's a great lad. The lads love him straight away. So no, he'll do well for us. He'll do really well.
Someone, of course, to the likes of Olaf and Alfie to learn off as well.
Well, that's right. If you look at some of the main characters in our squad, in our changing room, Yemi, a prime example, is something that Alfie and Olaf, they can learn from him. And they can feed off him. He can take a little bit of pressure off those two young lads as well, because they are only young lads. The same way that Sawsey does that for us as well. You know, young midfield players like your Tom Pease and people like this, the young fullbacks. When you've got people of that experience to ask questions for, to watch, to see how they train, how they conduct themselves, it's very important for the young players and great for us. So Players like that have been excellent for us and will continue to be, and very important for the rest of the season, definitely.
You mentioned pre-match you were busy getting some players in, and
yeah.
You've had an extremely busy week by the sounds of it. Obviously, Josh Baxter today in the squad, along with Harvey Bertram as well.
Yeah, it was a shame with Harvey. We'd almost worked all week because of the situation we were in with the centre halves missing. We'd worked all week on Harvey slotting into that sort of defensive line, and then unfortunately he picked up a knock midweek. So after what happened last week with the injury situations, we thought it was too much of a risk playing it. I think he would have been. I think he definitely would have given it a go, and he would have tried. But like I said, with the business end of the season now, we can't afford to be losing players for 3, 4, 5 games. So if we could isolate it to one game, it was definitely the right decision today. But again, Harvey will be with us next week and push on from there. So he's a little bit disappointed. I expected about not getting any minutes, but I think it was the right decision. Myself, we can't risk players being out long term at the moment. So if it's a case of he has another week then to recuperate, ready for next week, then so be it.